Good morning, everyone. I'm the EY market leader in North of England. Just to let you know, we've got the delegates to post any comments or questions as we go. We won't have time to respond directly to them today, but please do share your thoughts. Get in touch, we'd love to hear from you. We at EY are immensely proud and excited to support the event tomorrow. The ambitions and aims of this conference are closely aligned to EY's own, and that's to support, drive growth, and keep the economic growth. A lot of running we've all been on this past year. However, we're now all turning our thoughts and attentions beyond the easing of restrictions, looking at how we recover and the opportunities that will emerge over the coming months and years. Recent announcements like the creation of the DFT Hub and the Infrastructure Bank in Leeds, as well as the Treasury North to Darlington, demonstrate that the government is listening and taking steps to level up our economy. And the fact that there will be home to 3 of 8 free ports is a huge boon for trade, innovation and commerce across the north. If the regional economy is to grow, we need conditions to hothouse more fast growth companies like the EY Entrepreneur of the Year winner, Wejo. It's a virtuous circle. As more of these fast growth businesses come to the fore, they give confidence not only in our ability to recover, but to build back bolder. And in looking forward, I've chosen to look back. Historically, our cities contributed to the growth of the UK, put themselves on the map, and built global reputations. Whether it's our great port cities of Newcastle and Liverpool, whether it's our mill cities like across Lancashire, Leeds, and Manchester, and who could ever leave out Sheffield and Steel? We've done it before, so we can absolutely do it again. In more recent times, we may have suffered as the north-south divide widened, and there is no doubt there are challenges ahead as we have to face up to the impact of the pandemic and defining what our role is in a post-Brexit Britain. However, we've got the assets, whether it's leading education, science and technology incubators and accelerators, thriving digital media hubs like Media City, which are going to be further boosted by the news that more BBC jobs will be heading north. We already understand the importance of connecting villages, towns and cities through better transport networks, exploiting technology to drive new channels for business, and investing in the skills, health and wellness of our communities. EY and myself actively support this through our work and through partnership with bodies like the Northern Powerhouse Partnership. However, I want to use our time this morning to shine a light on some other areas to give confidence about our future and how the North can become more productive. I'm going to cover 3 areas. One of these, how we can fuel growth across existing industry. 2, where we focus on the future industry. And 3, how we harness our workforce and embrace the future of work. To the first point, digital connectivity. How we harness digital infrastructure to fuel growth in existing industry and accelerate the fast growth tech sector. We're going to hear from Praveen Shankar, who's EY's tech, media and telco leader in the UK, and from Simon Holden, who's the Chief Operations Officer from CityFibre UK. They're going to share our insights on what the digital connectivity opportunity is for us. To the second point, the clean economy, decarbonisation, and specifically in the area of carbon capture, utilisation and storage. This is going to be the creation of new industry and supply chains. And did you know that our region has 3 of the 4 nominated clusters for the UK, and 2 of the 3 stores, one on our west coast, one on our east coast. When you marry all this up with British Bolt's plans to build the UK's first gigafactory in Blyth, then the wider decarbonisation agenda presents significant opportunity for the North. You'll hear from Rob Doepel, who's our energy and resources leader, who's going to share his thoughts on what carbon capture, utilisation and storage means for us. And to the third point, the future of work. We've heard a lot in the press about the hybrid working, but what does that truly mean? How do we embed all the good things that we've had to adapt to over the past 12 months? How do we use this to take advantage in how we work, how we learn, how we develop, and what our future holds? when it comes to defining what we do in our workplaces. Georgina Knockton from our people consulting business will share those insights. But first of all, I'm going to hand over to Praveen and Simon as to what digital connectivity and gigabit connectivity means for us. Good morning, Praveen. It's great to see you, and over to you.
Thank you, Stephen. Hello all, my name is Praveen Shankar, and I run the telecoms, media and technology sector for EY in UK and Ireland. As Stephen touched upon, there is a huge opportunity to improve the productivity of the region, and I truly believe a fast and reliable digital infrastructure will be a key lever to drive this. We are all aware that digital connectivity has never been so crucial. Its role has become even more significant since the COVID-19 pandemic. It has enabled our economy to continue to function and will be extremely vital for its road to recovery as UK enters a new era outside of the European Union. In fact, when we asked SMEs across the region whether they would benefit more from investment in physical infrastructure or digital infrastructure, only 17% said that they would prefer physical infrastructure. A strong digital connectivity infrastructure is also key for digital inclusion, a topic very close to my heart. There is a need to provide equal opportunities to all to access digital technologies and innovation, driving well-being, learning, and employment opportunities, and ensuring that no one is left behind in an increasingly digital world. Also, this is directly linked to enabling the wider leveling up agenda. And to discuss this further, I'm delighted to introduce Simon Holden, the Chief Operating Officer of CityFibre. Simon has more than 30 years of rich experience working with telecom, media, and tech companies as a business leader and as an investment banker. CityFibre, as many of you will know, is one of UK's largest digital infrastructure providers and a key driver of building a gigabit Britain. It has networks in more than 60 towns and cities providing digital connectivity to multiple businesses and consumers, local authorities and mobile operators, and has significant rollout plans throughout the country. So Simon, thank you for joining us. Really good to have you with us. To start with, we are keen to hear your thoughts on how gigabit capable full fiber infrastructure can help drive productivity. Simon?
Thank you, Praveen. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you will see more and more of these rather distinctive CityFibre fleeces in the cities which you live in the north. So Praveen, your question is, I'm going to answer it in kind of two layers. First of all, just the kind of macro. So the UK economy, particularly in a post-Brexit era, needs the right infrastructure. And digital infrastructure, is at the heart of a service economy. The UK is predominantly a service economy. It runs on the internet, and the best thing to run the internet on is full fiber. And I think that we have seen in the past 12 months that if you have reliable, symmetrical, and high bandwidth infrastructure, you are in the best possible place to run your business, but also run your kind of personal life and to develop and innovate. And so this technology revolution that I think we're going through, where we're basically seeing 10 times the speed delivered at half the cost in a technology that uses light and is green versus electricity running over copper, this is a real generational change in technology. And what we are doing, together with others around the country, is investing billions of pounds to grow this infrastructure up. CityFibre made a choice that we would focus on underserved markets. So we're not in metropolitan London, we're not in central Manchester or Birmingham. We're really looking at those markets that are less well served. And what we see there is much more opportunity to roll out this product. And it's not just about service industries, it's about every industry. If you want to run smart automation services, if you are running cloud-based infrastructure, that is something where you want to have absolutely reliable and high bandwidth connectivity up and down. So that is what fiber can deliver. Now, in terms of, where we are on that journey. We've passed almost 700,000 premises. We are in, our plan is to go to 8 million, I should say, by 2025. I think we're on track to do that. We're working in a lot of big cities in the north, and with a lot of big local authorities. So Tyneside, we're working with Kirklees, we're working Sheffield, we're doing a lot of work in smaller places as well. So we announced last week just the kind of completion of that 8 million footprint. So I would highlight places like Redcar or Derwent, which are clearly underserved in terms of infrastructure, where we see a fantastic opportunity. And look, I think we recognize that one of the effects of this terrible, terrible pandemic is that actually people are becoming more agile in their work, that they can be more flexible, they will want to work from home. Actually, employers will want some of those people to work from home because that will reduce their accommodation costs, etc. So there's a real reason to make this investment and to make it ubiquitous. So I think we're excited about it. So the big layer is it's going to work and be better for everyone. But I think more importantly, perhaps for this group, is to say, investing in, a part of the world that has been underinvested, in our view, will give an opportunity to level up. And I think talking about that leveling up is important. We'll level up that opportunity because there'll be exactly the same high quality digital infrastructure that's being rolled out on the streets of Leeds as the streets of London. And that seems to us to be a kind of good thing all around.
So thanks, Simon. I think very much linked to my first question, and you also touched on that. I think we'll be interested to hear your views a bit more on leveling up and how a strong digital infrastructure can support in achieving that.
So I think we look at leveling up in actually lots of different ways. So some people think of leveling up as between different industries, so service industry versus manufacturing. Sometimes you can look at leveling up in terms of social aspects. We have a really simple philosophy, which is we build across a whole footprint. So we build across the whole of the city of Huddersfield. That means that, basically every location in Huddersfield will have full fibre. That means the more affluent places and the less affluent places. And we do that because we know that it's what the city wants. By the way, it's what the consumer ISPs want. It's what the business ISPs want. They want to connect every business. They want to connect every home. And we do it. And by doing that, actually, it gives accessibility to everyone. And because we're doing a fresh, brand new network, it also means it should be affordable for everyone. This is an important thing. These networks are low maintenance and low cost once they're built, and they'll last 2 or 3 generations. This is 50 to 100-year technology we're rolling out here. So our view is that we can address both some of the local social issues, as well as the kind of, business, SME, large business enterprise issues. We can put everyone on the same super high quality platform at a price that everyone feels is absolutely affordable for them. So that's what we're focused on. There's actually a session coming up this week with the Prime Minister for players in the industry to talk about that affordability factor. And we're very focused on making sure that as we enter a city, we're committing that we're going to finish it too.
Great. And finally, on the how, Simon, can you talk a bit about the need for collaboration between network providers, the business groups, government, regulators, and local authorities to enable an efficient and rapid deployment of digital infrastructure in the north?
I mean, it takes a village to build a network. Okay. When we often smile, we sit down with the CEOs of local authorities and we say, it would be really great if you could send all your citizens on holiday for a year, and then when they come back, it's all done. Yeah, but that's not practical. So, we have to work hand in glove with the local authority, with the highways agency. It is disruptive to roll out these networks because a lot of the time we do have to dig up the streets. But we are a fast-moving small works construction business, at our heart. So we are running, 50 to 100 meters a day. It takes 2 days to kind of do an average street. So it's a mess for 2 days. Hopefully we fill it all in and make it beautiful again, and then we leave and we're gone. And you then have gigabit capable networks outside your front door. We drop a Toby box. So sorry, that's the little box where you can make your connection. We drop one of those outside every premise in the street, and it takes 2 days and it's done. But we couldn't do that without the cooperation of, the local authority and really people giving us permission, because that's what we need to move quickly and swiftly through a city and through an area. The other part of this is we need people to build this. So, we are sourcing those operatives locally. We have a range of unskilled, semi-skilled, and highly skilled roles. We typically have 200 to 250 people in each location in which we're building, and we'll be building there for 3 to 5 years. So I think we're offering employment. We're offering local employment. We want people who really understand how the city works and frankly take a pride in what they're doing, because they're building a legacy for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And what we will end up doing is connecting every school, every GP surgery, every hospital. We'll end up, connecting all of the homes, all of the businesses, large and small, and giving them that opportunity, giving a good degree of employment, consistent employment for that period. And at the end of that, people will have literally, I think, what will be the best digital technology, I hope, in the world. We're using absolutely the latest kit to do it. And, people should be able to enjoy the benefits of that going forward. And one of the things I'd say is this is core infrastructure. I think you're going to talk about energy. I think cities and towns of the future are going to run with distributed power and a control system. And the control system is all going to run on fiber on the internet. So if people want to talk about smart cities and future innovations, autonomous driving, all of these things that now seem a little bit futuristic, but are coming, they're all going to run on fiber and distributed electricity. And so I think we're playing our part. We can only do it in collaboration with the city. But if we do it well and we can do it quickly, we can do it really cleanly, and hopefully we leave everyone in a better spot, having invested 50 to 100 million pounds in each location that we're in. So, it's a lot of money going under the ground there, but we think it's really beneficial overall. So that's our kind of, view of it all.
That's great, Simon. Really insightful thoughts on productivity, leveling up, and collaboration. Off to you, Stephen.
Thank you for that, Praveen. And Simon, a couple of takeaways I took there. The 17% of SMEs preferring physical versus digital infrastructure. That's given the amount that we've put over in previous conferences to what the physical infrastructure means is great. The opportunity that the digital infrastructure brings to our region. And the second point, probably far more important, and it came through in both your passion around the inclusion aspect, digital inclusion, bringing business and communities, and how it's, when you combine that, it's all about a key component and enabler to the levelling up agenda. So thank you both. Going to move on to the second point I talked about now, which is about future industries. And specifically, this is around carbon capture, utilisation and storage agenda. And I'm going to hand over to Rob Doepel, EY's UK Energy and Resources Leader, just to give us that bit of insight on what this opportunity brings. So good morning, Rob. Great to see you. And over to you.
Thank you, Stephen, and great to be with you all today. I think I'm being stitched there by Praveen, haven't I? That I'm probably only talking to 17% now who want to talk about physical infrastructure. But look, pleasure to be with you today and spend a little bit of time talking about the energy industry. My name is Rob Doepel. I'm a partner with EY, and I lead our energy and resources practice across both the UK and Ireland. And it was interesting to hear your reflection, Stephen, as you kicked us off this morning with the word confidence and being confident about the opportunity in recovery for businesses across the north. And from an energy perspective, I very much share that confidence. I think there are huge opportunities across the economy as we embark at pace into the energy transition and strive towards a lower carbon economy. In November and December last year, we received 2 policy documents from government that really signal the size and scale of that opportunity. In late November, we received the 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution, and shortly afterwards, the long-awaited energy white paper. And whilst these documents don't provide perhaps all the policy detail that investors and businesses may like or need to make investment decisions, they do, however, provide a very clear outline of the government's ambition and a clear statement of intent as to how we'll go about decarbonising our economy. And frankly, I could talk about the opportunity for the North on nearly each one of these 10 points. But as you can see, I've highlighted 2 areas of the 10-point plan that are attracting significant grants and incentives from government. And that is for driving the growth of low carbon hydrogen and investing in carbon capture, utilization and storage. And I thought today I might spend the next few minutes or so just exploring the size, scale and timing of these opportunities for the North. So for the uninitiated, what is CCUS? Well, carbon capture, utilization and storage is the process of capturing CO2 or carbon emissions at source. Think of it as like putting a cap on top of an emitting site, capturing the CO2, capturing that carbon, and then transporting it away via pipeline or shipping, and then safely storing it in depleted oil and gas fields, in the UK, mainly offshore. On a relative scale, CCUS technology is still in its infancy. We have some successful deployments across the globe. However, we're yet to develop CCUS at scale in the UK. But that is all about to change. As was announced in the 10-point plan, the UK government really wants to move forward at pace on this agenda, establishing what they're calling super places, which are effectively localized industrial clusters that together can drive innovation and collaborate in a small local region. And frankly, if we are to hit our net zero 2050 ambition, which by the way is now an act of parliament, we will need CCUS working at scale, as right now it's the only way to decarbonize many of our industries. So this diagram is a diagrammatic version of CCUS, the system for HyNet Northwest. Maybe we can just bring it to life in graphical form. HyNet is based on the production of hydrogen from natural gas. So at the center of this cluster, where you can see the hydrogen production plant, low carbon hydrogen would be produced in bulk from natural gas, with a new hydrogen pipeline shown here in black, transporting the hydrogen to new users of this clean energy source, such as new low carbon power generation, industrial users who have converted from natural gas, new forms of clean transport, shown here on the top right, with the potential to fuel hydrogen trains, hydrogen trucks and buses, and also potentially blending it back with natural gas to be used in local distribution networks, seen here on the far right. And then the carbon that's extracted from the natural gas is then transported via the orange pipeline and stored in depleted and empty oil and gas fields. In this case, those off the coast of Liverpool. So as I've said, this will happen, and government is pushing really hard to have 2 clusters operational by the mid-2020s, 4 sites operational by 2030, and a power project operational by 2030 as well. And by that point, we'll be capturing and storing 10 million tonnes of CO2 per year, which, to put it in perspective, is the equivalent to the annual energy use of over 3 million UK homes. But there are a number of challenges for us to overcome. Firstly, one has to get your head around the fact that in order for CCUS to work at scale, both physically and economically, we have to keep producing carbon, which I can understand in itself is a bit of a paradox, given our long-term goal here is to reduce carbon emissions. But the reality is we are producing a lot of carbon. And even as we progress through the energy transition, we will continue to produce carbon for quite some time. So investing in this technology is critical. Secondly, CCUS is expensive, with the cost of capturing, transporting and storing carbon effectively a net new cost. It exceeds the current cost of polluting. And many have debated the pros and cons of a carbon tax. And don't worry, Stephen, I'm not going to comment on that today. But we do need to find a mechanism to offset the risks to potential investors in order to get this industry moving, which is exactly what is underway now within government. BEIS are actively working on the future state business models and the commercial framework required to support what is essentially a brand new industry. BEIS are also currently consulting on the approach to cluster sequencing, which will start and enable the allocation of CCS program support funding. And whilst the exact size of the future industry is still uncertain, clearly early movers will be strategically well placed to take advantage of any future expansion to other regions, both in the UK and internationally, with skills and expertise available for export. So where are we now on the journey? Current estimates, and of course they do vary, but we're looking at around the 2 to 3 year construction period. So if we want to be operating for 2025, we do need to start moving at pace. The current plan is to select the first 2 clusters ahead of COP26 this November. And as I mentioned earlier, this sequencing of the clusters is currently out to consultation. We then need to agree and confirm the capture projects. So these are the industrial sites that will be included in the first wave of capture within each of the chosen clusters. And again, we're aiming to have those sites selected in the first half of 2022, meaning we have the potential for the first clusters to reach final investment decision in the first half of next year. So that means that the clusters need to progress with both technical and commercial arrangements. And I suppose this is where we have a little bit of the chicken and egg scenario. We need BEIS and government to develop their commercial models at speed to attract the right levels of investment. And we also need industry to invest slightly ahead of having full certainty around how each commercial or regulatory model will work. But the good news, and I suppose we all need some good news at the moment, don't we? The good news is the 4 clusters, and Stephen said this when he kicked off, 4 clusters, they're both well established. We have anchor partners in place. And for the north, well, as you can see by the map, 3 of the 4 existing clusters are in the north, with the additional one near Peterhead up in Scotland. So a lot to feel confident about in terms of growth and opportunity. We already have up to 1 billion in support committed as part of the 10-point plan into CCUS, with an additional 240 million committed as part of Net Zero Hydrogen Fund, and an additional 4 billion of private investment expected into hydrogen by 2030. And just as an aside on that, some global research just released from the Hydrogen Council pointed to over 200 large-scale projects being announced globally in the last year, totaling over 300 billion in spend through to 2030, with over 30 countries now having released hydrogen roadmaps. And we're expecting shortly the UK's hydrogen strategy and roadmap, which hopefully will be released in the first half of this year. And what I've talked about today is really the start of our CCUS journey, which is focused in the north. But longer term, we expect a network of pipes and shipping to support other clusters in Southampton, Isle of Grain, South Wales, etc. So the north will be leading and supporting the rest of the UK, which is great for jobs and investment, both in the UK and also for export. And on the jobs front, the government estimates job creation of around 50,000 jobs by 2030. And that might be a little bit on the high side. But once we move through FID and we start to scale construction activities, there's going to be substantial job opportunities arising for the selected clusters, with the other clusters starting shortly afterwards. So, Stephen, there's a lot to be confident and excited about. I haven't even touched on offshore wind or the electrification of heat, electrification of transport. But look, there's so much opportunity for the north to really continue to lead on the energy transition. And it's an opportunity to lead on behalf of the whole of the UK and also internationally to build expertise and knowledge what really is a nascent industry. Stephen, I'll hand back to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rob. I'm super excited about this, primarily just because it is new industry. It's something to embrace, you know, and building on what we're talking about this morning around confidence and productivity. This is an opportunity for us across our region to lead on behalf of the UK and put ourselves on the platform. So thank you very much. I'm now going to move on to the third point, and that is going to cover hybrid working. And I'm going to hand over to Georgina, who'll give some insight on what this is, what this means, and how work is being reimagined. Georgina.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everyone. Really excited to be here. I'm so glad I relocated years ago, because the opportunities are just phenomenal in terms of, you know, what's happening and what we've just heard. So I'm Georgina Knockton, our Northern People Consulting Director based here in Leeds. And I'm going to start with talking about what the last 12 months have taught us about the future of work, and how appropriate that we're talking about this today, when yesterday marked the year anniversary since lockdown. So reflecting on the future of work today is a really good timing. So back in March last year, we were thrust into the biggest corporate experiment in history, when millions of us found ourselves working from home. And on the surface, remote working seemed to work. People appeared to like it, businesses seemed to cope with it. And actually, from a regional perspective, for those of you working in London-centric or global organisations, there was an essence of virtual levelling up, which was very welcomed, certainly for me anyway. Roll on 6 months and we're still at home. Businesses had to start thinking about how they could work better. And many started to think about new ways of working, innovative ideas to teaming, well-being, and policies, etc. Microsoft Teams reported that their usage went from 20 million users pre-COVID to a staggering 115 million in November last year. And likewise, Slack went from 10 million to 12.5 million users in a couple of days. So people have clearly been investing to work better. However, the novelty of just being at home started to fade, and I'm sure many of you will attest to this. While some parts of working remotely are absolutely brilliant, we are human beings and social creatures, and we need some level of physical interaction. And we started to see the impacts of this way of working on our well-being and mental health. And so under the surface, what we've really learned from the last 12 months is that we need to work differently. Many businesses have started to make public statements about how they will work differently to tackle the future of work agenda. And some businesses, for example, saying they expect everyone back into the office, others saying they will work completely remotely and reap the benefits from real estate savings. And frankly, these stories are confusing, and there is a pressure to feel as though your organisation needs to copy what someone else is doing in this space, or jump to finding a solution right away. And of course, time is of the essence to start shaping how your organisation responds to the last 12 months and how they work differently. EY have conducted extensive research on this topic, and whilst there are a number of what we call reset areas and change areas in terms of work experiences that will change, and you can see some of these on the screen now, these changes absolutely cannot occur in a piecemeal fashion. And there is sometimes statements in the press that we're seeing that allude to those piecemeal changes. The fundamental aspect of developing a different way of working is to focus on the experience you are trying to create in your organisation and how that aligns to your purpose, your strategy, your customer needs and employee preferences, and then co-creating this with your workforce in an integrated and joined up way. And we're all really familiar with customer experience and the productivity gains that go with that in terms of allowing customers to more easily interact with your business, to access products and services and to increase sales. But not all of us would perhaps consider the effectiveness and productivity impacts of creating the right employee experience and the right interactions within the workplace. And when we talk about experience, at EY, we frame these interactions in terms of bricks, bytes, and behaviours. Bricks being the spaces we work within, bytes being the technology we interact with, and behaviours being the ways of working and the culture that underpin everything. We have concluded from our research that there is a spectrum of archetypes that will exist going forwards in terms of where people work and what the office, so the bricks as we call it, will look like. And this ranges from entirely on-premise, that you can see on the left here, so work as a place, through to entirely off-premise, so work as an activity. And right in the middle is work as an anchor, connector, and a magnet. And these are what we see as the hybrid working archetypes. We've worked with a number of clients already to help them develop their hybrid models. And what we've seen is that there's often a difference in opinion with what archetypes leaders believe are the right thing, and sometimes even between leaders there's been disagreements, versus what employees say they want, versus also what's actually viable in the organisation today in terms of the roles and tasks that need to be undertaken. And I would challenge the employers here today to really think about what archetype could be most effective for your organisation if you're starting out on this journey to create a different way of working. And as I said, if you haven't started that already, today is probably a very good day to start that reflection. Next slide, please. But as I've already touched on, understanding not just the bricks, but how the bytes and behaviours underpin your model is fundamental to creating the full hybrid experience, which offers the biggest gains in terms of productivity. We believe to be a true hybrid employer, there is a DNA that needs to exist from a cultural perspective. How can you collaborate? How can you create, a collaborative, flexible and connected organisation that is clear on the use of its bricks, has the right underpinning technology and behaves in a way that embraces teams and people to achieve the strategic and customer focused outcomes that is required for growth? And just to expand on this growth and bring to life the productivity gains a little more, creating better, more efficient and frictionless experiences means that people can use their time better and focus on the value add. Sure, we'd all love to do that. Creating a flexible, collaborative and more connected culture enables agility and teaming that is critical for business resilience. And we've all needed resilience this last year and will continue to do so going forward. Improved employee satisfaction from better experience impacts sentiment, retention, talent acquisition and well-being, increasing morale and performance. And ultimately, these collective factors will have impacts on your brand and therefore growth of your business. And particularly for our region, creating these hybrid experiences where there is an opportunity to work in different places allows for increased urbanisation into local towns and villages across the region as people require the shops and services that might be closer to home. But as I said, it's really important to develop your future ways of working collaboratively across your organisation for it to deliver the outcomes that you specifically need. I've been speaking to Daphne, Doody Green at the CIPD about the future of work and hybrid working. The CIPD, as many of you will know, champion better working lives. And I wanted to get their insights on what they are urging employers to do, which is another important aspect as you consider how you reimagine how work gets done in your organisation.
So many thanks to Georgina and EY for having CIPD at this event today. Many businesses from across our region have been forced to adapt, react and implement radical changes to the way they operate, whilst navigating the uncertainty and socio-economic disruption of the past year, as Georgina mentioned. In response to this, CIPD have been promoting and campaigning for ways to improve working lives, making sure that good and fair work is on the people agenda. We believe that it is the principles of good work that will be vital in rebuilding successful businesses in the future. Right now, employers need to put people front and centre in their organisations to support our economic recovery, ensuring it benefits not only employers, but workers and societies more broadly. We're urging employers to put a strong focus on supporting workers' physical and mental health, ensuring well-being both now and in the future. We must increase the provision of flexible working practices to continue to boost our efforts in creating inclusive and diverse workforces, and continue to build the success of the shift to increased home and hybrid working to optimise ways of working that benefit both businesses and individuals. It's important to prevent the creation of a two-tier workforce where those who can work from home have considerable flexibility while others have very little. And in response to this, we have recently launched a campaign called Flex from First, encouraging employers to pledge their support and asking the government to change the UK law and to make it a right to request from day one. And finally, we're asking employers to invest in people management capability, which will be critical to boosting our workplace productivity and enabling employees to adapt and transition back into workplaces. It's the behaviour of line managers on a day-to-day basis that will have the biggest impact on staff motivation, organisational performance, well-being and inclusion. Thank you.
Great. So to summarise, we have a moment in time opportunity to create a deliberate, more effective and responsive way of working to support our future growth. Working differently is about considering the interactions in terms of your bricks, bytes and behaviours and bringing these together to develop an integrated approach to hybrid working. Putting humans and their experiences at the heart of this is critical, ensuring you are creating an inclusive, diverse, flexible and responsible way of working, which benefits employees, employers and society more broadly.
Thanks,
Georgina.
Stephen. And thank you to all our speakers this morning, Praveen, Simon and Rob, for sharing your views and perspectives. In my introduction, I emphasised the need to be confident. I truly believe that the three examples, and there could have been many more that we've outlined today, so that's powering existing industry through digital connectivity and how this fuels growth across existing industry and our communities. To new industry, the second point, and how the North can lead for the UK across the clean economy and specifically in carbon capture, utilisation and storage. We've heard a lot about how Industrial Revolution 4.0 will kind of, in quotes, automate many roles, but not to worry. We know others will come along. I truly believe this area for our region is one example of where we're going to see significant investment and job creation, and more importantly, one for us in our region to lead on. Mega exciting. And then our third point, hybrid working. How is this redefining the role of the office, be that as a connector or the office as a magnet? Thinking about it across your bricks, your bytes and your behaviours, your bricks being your real estate, your bytes being the tech to enable effective and efficient working, and the behaviours, the cultural changes to be able to embrace these changes and not the individual silos that could create where people make real estate decisions over that integrated bricks, byte and behaviour. So this is going to be all about whether this is going to help us attract and retain talent, and also having an engaged and productive workforce. These, along with what's already happening and what's exciting me and our EY team in the North about the future, why the time is now for the region to step forward and contribute to the recovery of the UK. And in front of you, you can see a number of statistics, which I'll not quote back at you. You can read it. You can read them all. This is a combination of both Bank of England projections around the economy rebounding through the summer and autumn period, and some of EY's Item Club data, which is giving further evidence around the potential we have in being able to build back bolder. I want to just close by thanking you all for joining us today. I'm looking forward to reading some of the comments, some of the questions that you've posed. Please do get in touch, please reach out, and I hope you have a rest of great conference. Thank you for joining us, and see you soon.